There are a few authors that are in this legendary, ultra-famous Hollywood status. Meyer, Rowling, Tolkien, just to name a few. And of course, Stephen King himself is certainly in that roulette, and rightfully so. These are household names that have transcended the book-only audience, and for a lot of these guys, you could ask any random person on the street if they've read any of their work, and while the answer will probably be no, they've certainly at least heard of their names. That's just how well known they are through the reader's word of mouth, film adaptations that say based on the book by X writer, or just their significance in pop culture that constantly brings up their names. Focusing the lens on King, most of the adaptations of his work range from well-regarded to all-time classics. Personally, my favorites are probably Christine, Misery, and Carrie, but that's really hard to pick because honestly, on any given day, those choices might change. And like, big surprise, we all know Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile are freaking amazing. And to be transparent though, I'm also gonna admit that Pet Sematary is on the lower end for me personally. It's not a bad movie by any means, but it's just the most fine movie in my opinion. I know it's a lot of people's favorite, but I just don't really have a strong opinion on it. Growing up, I remember watching it and even then thinking it's okay, and that's all I can really say about the movie. To the point that even the remake I didn't find as bad as other people did. Yes, Fred Gwynne missing was a big part, but the rest of the movie was equally as unimpactful as the original was for me. Regardless though, pretty much each book adaptation is iconic and memorable in its own way. Putting all the cards on the table, I had never heard of the book The Long Walk. With much of his work being discussed and talked about, I was shocked I'd never heard about this. Set in a dystopian alternative universe that seems similar to post-World War II, even though it's meant to be in the future, I believe, we follow a group of gentlemen who, through selection, join a contest of sorts where they have to consistently walk a specific speed of no less than 3 miles an hour and be the last man standing, all in order to get one wish granted and have all the money that they could ever want. Legend has it that this is one of the first books that he's ever written, and in doing some research, I discovered that this movie is a farce and is not faithful to the original material because the entire marketing is constantly saying how the characters have to walk at 3 miles an hour, but in the book, it's 4 miles an hour. That's absurd. Do you really think kids, let alone fully grown adults, would be able to go for that long at that speed? Steven, you madman. But you look back at any of his other adaptations and the fantastical elements are all over those stories, but the major outlier in The Long Mile is that it's kind of surprising that this got a full feature-length film. This is prime for like a Twilight Zone or a Black Mirror episode. Because from the trailer and premise alone, I immediately thought, oh, this is gonna be a very heavy character and dialogue-driven story as we walk for 90 minutes while the characters drop like flies because they just can't keep going. It's gonna be a lot of unique character reasonings for why they would do something so dangerous. And a movie like this doesn't even need really great marketing because so many people watched the trailer or heard about the premise and thought, oh, that's easy, I could win that no problem. However, it was cute to see the marketing for this thing where people were able to see the movie so long as they were on a treadmill and walking along, and if you weren't able to make it to the end, then you were simply escorted out of the theater. Fun marketing, interesting premise, and sprinkle in some really great actors, and they converged to deliver arguably one of the best Stephen King adaptations to date. A premise as thin as this has no right to be as enveloping, dark, and devastating as it is. And it just boils down to how strong and captivating and relatable these characters are. Because while it's set in a world that's severely damaged or barren, it doesn't harp on the world building because that's not the focus, and honestly, I was perfectly fine with that. Cooper Hoffman, who was absolutely amazing in Paul Thomas Anderson's Licorice Pizza, which by the way was one of the best movies to come out that year, he was just as good as I expected him to be in The Long Walk. He leads the pack and I guess you could argue is the main character, even though, let's be honest, multiple characters feel like they're the main character. That's just how good everybody is. Which removes that plot armor effect since nobody is safe. He plays the character of Raymond and he has a very unique scenario where he essentially jumps into the fire, metaphorically, because he has a very unique wish that he has to fulfill. As the movie goes on, you learn more and more about these characters and you're so engrossed in learning more about their backstory that you forget how much of a perilous situation you're in because of how fascinated you are with all these characters. David Johnson, who stole all our hearts as Andy in Alien Romulus, and he freaking did it again as Peter. He has one of the most sweetest, most sincere faces of the modern era. He's so good at being likable and magnetic to where every time he's on screen, you think he's like best friend material. He does not disappoint in The Long Walk, and he's probably my pick for the strongest performance of the film. Both Hoffman and Johnson, whenever they go into their monologues or give details of who they are, it's really gripping stuff. Sprinkle in some Judy Greer and Mark Hamill to mix in some veteran presence who are always a delight to see on screen, and you're already halfway there to a great movie. Like I said earlier, I expected this to be heavily carried by the characters' unique motivations and objectives, but this movie surprised in every way, even beyond that. There's a beautiful synchronicity between Ray and Peter that rivals Andy and Red from The Shawshank Redemption. It's seriously that good. The tenacity of all these characters giving 110% of themselves, all with the drive of winning this thing, is so captivating that you easily realize to crunch this into a 30-minute episode would have been a waste, because you are so immersed so quickly and invested in each character that you feel every loss, and it hurts that much more whenever the inevitable happens. And throughout the movie you see the toll of the walk both physically and mentally on all of these characters in their own unique ways, and it's so intense that you become numb by the end just because of how bad you feel for all of them. This movie also shows how merciless it is, because it has the audacity to crush you emotionally and then drop the title card in front of you while you're still hurting. I was so invested by that point that I forgot we hadn't even gotten to the title card yet. It reminded me of something like Fresh. This movie is absolutely ruthless, and chances are if you bet on a character to win, you'll most likely lose, because this movie is not afraid to kill anyone. And emotionally, wow, is this movie heavy. There is multiple tear-jerking worthy moments that are bound to get you misty-eyed at least once. And that being said, the pacing for this movie is excellent, because while most of the time you are completely stressed out, there's a good balance of levity and brotherhood and just having a good time with the boys. You're never bored or checking the time because you're just constantly stressed out. In the midst of the kills and ruthless savagery, they answer the questions of what happens if you need to pee or tie a shoe. And sometimes it's played for laughs, and sometimes they somehow make it a very stressful moment regardless of how absurd it may seem. The Long Walk also on another level shows equally the worst of these characters, but also it shows the best of the humanity within all of those characters as well. Somehow this movie really believes altruism still exists. And in general, as heavy and as dark as this movie is, there's really great themes at play in this movie. It's honestly so refreshing to see a movie actually fulfill its promise of giving you the movie that you think you're gonna go see, because let's be honest, how many trailers are misleading and then the final project is nothing like what you thought the movie was gonna be. There are of course exceptions where that is a good thing, but for the most part it tends to be a bad thing. This movie claims you're gonna watch a bunch of guys walk for 90 minutes, and that's exactly what the movie is. I like it. There's so many Easter eggs for fans of the Stephen King adaptations, and there's even like a stand-in for Stephen King himself, which was hilarious how they were able to work that in. And you can nitpick the movie with random stuff, but honestly, meeting the movie in the middle is necessary at times so that the movie can perform the way that it wants to. I'd say my only complaint is that I wish there was more of Mark Hamill. Like, obviously he's the big bad, but for a movie that focuses on showing so much character work for literally everybody else, it's weird that they didn't do that for him, but it's definitely not enough to harm the overall experience. Overall, the movie is great, and hopefully in the future it will also be added to the catalog of great Stephen King film adaptations that we've had up until now. But that's it for me. I'd appreciate a thumbs up, subscribe, and sincerely yours, Anthony.